Hello everyone. In the overview chapter of Elastic Block Storage topic, we learn about EBS. So what is full form of EBS? Elastic Block Storage. What is the definition of EBS that we learned in our previous video? EBS, it is a storage that provides default root value to EC2 instances. In our previous video, we learned about overview of EBS, Elastic Block Storage. We also learn about the definition of EBS. It is a storage that provides default root value to the EC2 instances. Now, we have one root value. We have one root value by default and we have multiple additional value. One root value we have for EC2 instances and multiple additional value. Okay, we have one root value to the EC2 instances and we have multiple additional value to the EC2 instances. Also, we learned that maximum volume size is 16 terabyte. Maximum volume size is 16 terabyte. Okay. Now, we will move little forward with this EBS topic. Now, there are two types of volumes. EBS, Elastic Block Storage, is one of the type. There are two types of EBS value. There are two types of EBS values. First is EBS value. There are two types of values. First is EBS value and second is instance store values. There are two types of values. One is EBS values and second is instance store values. Short form is ISV, instance store values. Okay. There are two types of values. One is EBS value and second is instance store value, that is ISV. Now, EBS values are persistent storage. What is persistent storage? Persistent storage means EBS values are permanent storage. Okay. EBS values are persistent storage. Persistent means permanent. EBS values are permanent storage. It means if you start and stop the EC2 instances, data will not lost, right? It is a persistent storage or it is a permanent storage. So if you start and stop the EC2 instances, data will not lost in EBS values. Now, but coming to the instance store values are not persistent storage. Not persistent means temporary storage. It means if you start and stop the instance store values, data will lost. Okay. EBS values are persistent storage, which means permanent. If you start and stop the EC2 instances in EBS value, data will not lost. But in instance store values, if we start and stop the EC2 instances, data will lost. Why? Because instance store values are non-persistent, which means temporary. Okay. Now, EBS values are billable. And instance store values are free. EBS values are billable and instance store values are free. So I will write here. There are two types of values. Okay, there are two types of values. First is EBS values and second is instance store values, ISV, instance store value. There are two types of value. One is instance store values and one is elastic block storage value. Okay, there are two types of value, right? So in EBS values, EBS is a persistent storage which means permanent. Okay, persistent storage means permanent storage. Now, and instance store values are non-persistent storage which means temporary. Instance store values are non-persistent storage which means temporary. Second is okay. If we start and stop the EC2 instances in EBS value, data will not lost. If we start and stop EC2 instances data will not lost. Why? Because it is a persistent storage, it is a permanent storage, so data will not lost if you start and stop the EC2 instances. Okay, but in instance store volumes, if we but in instance store volumes, if we start and stop EC2 instances, data will lost. Okay. Next point is just 1 minute please. Okay, sorry for interruption. Next point is, if you start and stop the EC2 instances in EBS, data will not lost. In instance store value, if you start and stop the EC2 instances, data will lost. Okay, now next point is EBS value maximum size is 16 terabyte. EBS value maximum size is 16 terabyte. Okay, EBS value maximum size is 16 terabyte. Okay, in instance store volumes are free. ISV are free. Instance store volumes are free, and here in EBS volumes are billable. EBS volumes are billable. Okay, these are the points these are the points that are important from the interview point of view and also from certification point of view. There are two types of volumes. One is EBS volume and one is instance store volume. In EBS volumes are persistent storage, which means permanent. As EBS volumes are permanent, if you start and stop the EC2 instances, data will not lost. In EBS volume, maximum size is 16 terabyte and EBS volumes are billable. Coming to the instance store volumes are non-persistent storage, which means temporary. As it is temporary, so if you start and stop the EC2 instance, data will lost, and instance store volumes are free. Now coming forward, there are different types of EBS volumes also. There are different types of EBS volumes also. There are different types of EBS value. Types of EBS volumes. Okay. What are the different types of EBS volumes? First is, there are different types of EBS value. First is general purpose. Now what is general purpose? There are two types of in general purpose also. One is GP2. There are different types of EBS value. First is general purpose. In general purpose also we have two types, GP2 and GP3. GP2 and GP3 are the two types of general purpose. General purpose volumes general purpose volumes are SSD. SSD means solid state drive. SSD means solid state drive. Okay. Now if it is solid state drive, it means it is for high performance. and if it is HDD, hard disk drive, it means it will be slower. If it is SSD, it means it is for high performance, and if it is HDD, it means it is for slower performance. Okay, now general purpose has two types, GP2 and GP3, which is SSD, and general purpose volumes are used for general purpose only. It is used for general purpose. Okay, now second type is provision IOPs. In EBS volume type, second type is provision IOPs. What is IOPs? Input output per second. Okay, in provision IOPs also we have two types, IO1 and IO2. In provision IOPs also we have two types, IO1 and IO2. Okay, now provision IOPs also are SSD, solid state drive. It is means it is used for high performance. So what is the use of provision IOPs? It is used for high performance. Provision IOPs are also used for high performance. Okay, there are different types of EBS value. First is general purpose. In general purpose also, general purpose has two types, GP2 and GP3. General purpose is SSD, solid state drive. SSD means it is used for high performance, and general purpose used for general purpose. Second is provision IOPs. Provision IOPs also has two types, IO1 and IO2. Provision IOPs also, it is SSD, solid state drive. It is means it is also used for high performance. Third type is throughput. Third type is throughput. Third type is throughput. In throughput, there is one type, ST1. In throughput, there is type ST1. Third type is throughput. We have third type, that is throughput. In throughput type is ST1. But throughput is a HDD, hard disk drive. It means it is used for slower performance only. Okay, we have third type, that is throughput. Sorry for the interruption, guys. Third type is throughput. It has type ST1. Okay, but throughput is HDD, hard disk drive. Okay, now throughput is used for frequently accessed data. Frequently accessed data. Frequently accessed data with cheaper price. Throughput is used for frequently accessed data with cheaper price. Okay, now fourth type is the fourth type we have is cold, and cold as type, that is SC1. Type of cold is SC1. Cold is also HDD, that is hard disk drive. And the purpose of cold is not frequently accessed data, not frequently accessed data with cheaper price. Fifth type is magnetic. The type of magnetic is standard. Type of magnetic is standard. It is also used for HDD and it is previous generation. Magnetic is the previous generation. Okay. There are different types of EBS volumes. First is general purpose. The types of general purpose is GP2, GP3. General purpose is SSD, which means solid state drive. General purpose use of general purpose is for general purpose only. Second type is provision IOPS. For provision IOPS type is I1 and IO2. It is also SSD. It is used for high performance. Third type is throughput. The type for throughput is ST1. It is HDD, hard disk drive. It is for slower performance. The use of throughput is frequently accessed data with cheaper price. Fourth type is cold. The type for cold is SC1. It is HDD, hard disk drive. The use of cold is not frequently accessed data with cheaper price. And last type is magnetic. The type for magnetic is standard. It is also HDD and it is previous generation. Now here SSD means solid state drive. I will write here. SSD means solid state drive. SSD is solid state drive. HDD is hard disk drive. HDD is hard disk drive. Okay. And what is IOPS? Input output per second. IOPS means input output per second. Okay. Now the default volume type for Windows is important question from interview point of view. Default volume type for Windows. The default volume type for Windows is GP2 and for Linux is GP3. Default volume type for Windows is GP2 and for Linux it is GP3. Okay. It is very important from interview point of view. Default volume type for Windows is GP2 and for Linux is GP3. Default volume type for Windows is GP2 and for Linux is GP3. Now, root volume supports GP2, GP3, I1, IO2 and standard. Okay. Root volume supports GP2, GP3, IO1, IO2 and standard. Whereas additional volume supports all types. Additional volume supports all types. Believe me guys, no one will cover this topic from on YouTube, but these topics are really important if you want to really make your concepts very clear, and this is the only thing that we are going to do practically in our jobs. Okay. There are two types in volumes. One is EBS volumes and one is instance store value. We learn in details about EBS and instance store value. In EBS volumes also there are different types. One is general purpose, provision IPs, throughput, code, magnetic. Okay. Default volume type for Windows is GP2 and for Linux is GP3. If you are using Linux machine, so AWS will provide default volume type, that is GP3. If you are using Windows, then default volume type will be GP2. Root volume support GP2, GP3, I1, IO2 and standard, and additional volume will support all types. Okay, so this is all about the EBS volumes and instance store volumes. We will also learn more about this storage. There is snapshot, there is about snapshot concepts, how we can transfer the data. All things we are going to learn one by one.